flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meeting Act Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Augusta, Branchville, and Sussex post offices, and notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, and the clerk of the boroughs of Branchville and Sussex, and the townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Wantage. Mission statement. High Point Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. Jim, can we have a roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Ancliffe.
Here.
Mr. Dunn.
Here.
Dr. Keough.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith. I just saw Mr. Morenci walking down the hall. So
Yes, he's
he's
about-
here. Mr. Dona.
Yes.
Mr. Krause.
Here.
Ms. Nugent.
Here.
Dr. Ripley.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Yes.
And before we move on to executive session, I'd like to take a minute to turn this over to Ms. Anderson, who has a statement for the board and the public.
It has been past practice that we present and host the staff in the library and media center for Christmas holiday cookies and jazz like that. And I was wondering if we're still interested in doing that. And I've been running it, and it costs each $20 to put in the coffer, and I go shopping and get it all squared away. Everybody think that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll let you, Dr. Ripley, figure out the day that this works
Yes.
best. It's usually, it starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, runs for until 3. Oftentimes the wrestlers come and serenade us, which is
Always
and,
a pleasure.
and we're all invited, of course, and we invite the staff. And if they're free from classroom duty during, starting at 1 o'clock, they come, or else they show up at 2:25 and school's over. Okay, good, thank you.
All right. With that, a motion will be made that the High Point Regional High School Board of Education enter executive session to provide an update on legal, personnel, and negotiation items, which are exempt from the public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Laws 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussions held by the board which need to not remain confidential will be made public when appropriate. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session in the cafeteria annex at the conclusion of executive session. It is not anticipated that any action will be taken at this time. Do we have a motion to go to executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing nobody opposed, we'll move to executive session. Okay, may I get a motion to go back into public session?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Business? So I'm going to move on to approval of the minutes. And the regular meeting minutes, October 15th, and the executive session minutes. A motion to accept them?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion?
Mr. Ancliffe.
Yes.
Mr. Morenci.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Abstain, I was absent.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Dr. Keel?
Yes. Public comments, agenda items only. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, we will open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should state his or her name and address. You will have 3 minutes to address the board, which will be timed by myself. We will limit the section to no longer than 45 minutes. Please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. Does anybody like to make a public comment? Seeing nobody stepping up for a public comment, we'll move on to presentations. We're going to skip student council. They have no report at this time. The next presentation is the HPRHS, but I don't see the HPRHS president here. Is somebody filling in for her?
I just have, Mr. Q, I just have a couple announcements that they gave me that I can include with mine.
Would you please?
If that's okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Good evening again, everybody. Hello, everybody. So I'm just going to go a couple announcements that Ms. Mancuso gave me that I will share with you. During the NJEA Teacher Convention, Carla Mancuso represented Sussex County at what's called the SOGI table, Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. And that was down at the Teacher Convention last week. 2 weeks ago, sorry. Thursday, November 21st, Cindy Zajac will attend the annual Educational Support Professional Celebration at Toronto Farms to receive her well-deserved ESP of the Year Award. So congratulations to Cindy, and she'll be recognized 2 days from now at Toronto Farms for that. So that's all they have for me to present, so I'll switch over to the principal report, that's okay?
That'd be fine, thank you.
Okay. So we had almost lost the mic. We had a busy couple of weeks and month. The guidance department facilitated a college and trade school fair on October 28th. We had over 60 colleges and trade schools that participated. That was very well attended and received by our students. And I had a chance to go over and see many things as part of that. Maybe some of you saw, we had a Diary of Anne Frank by our fall theater program in the fall drama, which was outstanding, pretty intense. And obviously an intense message that they did a great job on that. Congratulations to Teresa and student body for that. We also had our academic awards program recently in the last couple of weeks. We had 95 students that were honored for high honor roll for 4 marking periods, and over 150 students overall that were recognized for an academic award. So that was our biggest crowd we've ever had. So it's a great thing to see that parents are coming out for that with many busy schedules, and we actually had to move to the cafeteria because we were a little bit afraid of the media center, which is a nice venue, being too full. And then although the auditorium is nice and sometimes there's little cabinets for that type of thing, we ended up having over 200 people show up. So that was a really nice event for the students. We also had what's sponsored by, you probably saw an insert in the paper, Center for Prevention and Counseling. They do a What's Your Anti-Drug annual contest each year, and that was completed, and Abigail Lazier was selected from High Point for her photography. So kudos to her and also to Mrs. Sheenice for the entry for Abby. We had a senior formal as well a couple weeks ago. We had 150 students. Maybe you saw the videos out there and the posters out there rocking the night away. That was a nice shot, nice time down in Jefferson, and the kids did a really nice job and had a lot of fun. And the food was good, the music was good. That's usually the 2 indicators that they had a good time. For that. So that was great. We'll talk about Veterans Day, and Mr. Campbell has that up there in a little bit. They're also doing a letter writing campaign that they did through the history classes, and Mr. Giardino led that as well, so that was a pretty neat activity. First marking period in the books. All right, last time I was up here tonight, it's coming to a close, it's in the books. Grades are all in and posted. And the mid and second marking period, because November becomes very choppy, is December 11th already. So it comes fast and furious, it's hard to imagine, but it does. We also had our 8th grade tours in the last week, on the 13th and 14th, very well attended, and a lot of positive feedback from the students that attended, from the peer leaders and from the teachers as well on that. So again, there's a chance for about 2 hours for the students to be in the building and see classes that are going on live and engaged. So that's always a positive feedback because they get a chance to see them face to face versus walking through the classroom and see what the classroom looks like, what it looks like while the students are leading it, and our students do a fantastic job with the tours They're just great peer leaders, great student ambassadors. We're very proud of that because that is our best foot, right? We have Mrs. Jackie in the guidance department, Mr. Diodino, Mr. Drella, Mr. Duke, Mr. Norton, Mr. Carter, they're all involved in that. But it comes down to the students that are leading the tours and how engaged they are. So they do a great job as always. If you can imagine that we have our 8th grade open house, that's January 9th. So that will be before we know it as well. And we're beginning this scheduling program. We also had last week Friday a prevention assembly. A organization, maybe familiar with it, George Street Playhouse, was sponsored by the Barnabas Foundation, and they gave out grants to this organization, which allowed them to come to schools and do prevention assemblies. The assembly, Mr. Anderson had a chance to see, the one was called Anytown, which is basically a depiction, just as it says, that opioid use and abuse can happen anywhere. And I thought it was well written in terms of the play itself, and the actors and actresses did a great job in terms of not only the message, which is sometimes a very difficult message to present. We can always have a speaker come in, right, and do an assembly, and I'm always very intent about vetting those things out and making sure that they're appropriate, one, and two, that the message is lasting, not a one and done. It's a hard message to bring them. And they brought a message, and they brought the play, so they had the ability to have an engaging audience that was engaged. But then afterwards, they spent about 15, 20 minutes or more talking about why they do what they do, where they kind of come from, and a little bit about the stats and the data about what they do in New Jersey and what that has an impact on. So they did a nice wrap-up, close-out, versus just leaving it at the play. So that was very good. We had students that stayed afterwards and asked questions. So it was a good sign. Ms. Anderson said they were engaged in the audience. We always expect our students to be top-notch.
I was an audience member, and they laughed at the right times, they groaned at the right times, they were part of the shows of musicals, the original musical. My question is, I was there for the junior senior assembly. How did the freshmen sophomores do with that being a younger crowd?
Yeah, a little bit different in terms of that, because the maturity level is just a little bit different. They do the same show. Sometimes they'll adjust it a little bit, like the message for 9th and 10th and 11th grade audience. But they don't really adjust that part of it. They do adjust their ending a little bit, their closing and talks of the discussion. Sometimes you have to bring it back in a little bit.
Yeah. Did the kids participate as much as they did in the first
They
round?
did,
Okay.
yeah, they did.
That's good.
We just had to kind of keep them a little bit more
Yeah,
wrapped.
well, they're 14
for that.
and 15
And
years
it's
old.
always the afternoon, which makes a big difference too.
Yes.
But good feedback from the students, so that's a good thing. They're going to be going to other schools in the county, Morris County as well. This is what Highfield was one of the first Sussex County schools they're part of. So it's always good to be able to spread that and say this is a great program, a vested program, and use it. Obviously, you wouldn't have that coming every year because it would be the same sort of message unless they changed their overall. So again, thank you to the Barnabas Foundation because they're the ones that were behind that, sponsoring that, and also Justin Hoff, our SAC and guidance counselor, was the one that coordinated that. And she was the one that did a lot of the legwork and logistics to make sure that happened. They were early. They got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to set up for the show. So they were in town at 6 o'clock. Even 6 o'clock, they couldn't start at 9 o'clock.
And they come from New Brunswick, so
They thought they were in another country. This is still Illinois. This is still New Jersey. So they appreciated the view, although it was pretty dark most of the time they came up. Also, if you saw on social media, Tiffany Van Tassel, one of our students in our music program, she was one of 3 selected. This is through Sussex County Music Shop. She was selected to play at a recital in Carnegie Hall at the end of this month. So I met with her, what's today, Tuesday, yesterday, and so she's very excited. Kind of was a surprise, and there's going to be other students there as well, but she's one of 3 students that were selected in the county through her music program at Sussex County Music Shop, and she was excited because they gave her the paper, and then she's first time she saw it, she didn't actually see the paper. She thought it was pretty cool, and I said, take this extra copy home, so she was excited about having that. We also had Mrs. Retz, recently selected. It was on Friday. We were notified late last week that she was selected as an NJDOE, exemplary educator. And what does that mean? That they reach out to us probably late spring last year, I believe, maybe, and they asked if we would like to nominate somebody. It's a pretty extensive criteria for that. As an admin group, we went through several possible candidates and we selected Mrs. Retz. And that process took from April-ish to now. We were notified that she was chosen as recipient. So we're very proud of her. we made a nice splash into her classroom, delivered the good news, and she was like, "What's going on?" The algebra class. So that was a really neat thing as well. So that was a nice thing for Mrs. Rest at the end of the week last week. Some just other announcements for things coming up. If you look at your calendar, it gets busy and busier this time of year. I'm sure you all have that as well as in your own home lives. Holiday Pops concert is going to be on December 3rd at 7 p.m. And the 5th is the Candlelight concert at 7 p.m. They're both in the auditorium. Those are our traditional holiday concerts that start to kick off the season, usually the week after Thanksgiving. Although we'll be able to talk about this next board meeting, because I was coming back from it, Tilly's kids is going down to Augusta Preschool again, down in Irvington. That's been our partner school for now 4 years. So we're excited to go back down there to pass it along to Tilly's kids. That's going to be the 17th of December. We'll load up on a bus full of gifts and deliver the cheer down to the school, and hopefully partner back with them and they can come up here in the springtime if that works out for their schedule. Fill the bus is coming, so bring your non-perishable goods in. December 19th is going to be the actual filling of the bus with that. Again, a nice time of year to help out our own community. For those that aren't familiar with that, that Champions for Charity event was championed by the county. This is, I believe, the 8th or 9th year that we're part of it. They reached out to the local high schools and schools and said, "Hey, we had this idea. We want to collect food. It's going to go back to Sussex County Food Pantry Division of Health and Human Services. The schools will be interested. Of course, all the schools in the county jumped on. Then they made it more of like a competition between the schools. We got the trophy stuff from last year, so we're excited about that. I met with the Fill the Bus committee last week, and I said, although that's great, it's not about that. It's about that we're helping our own neighbors, our own friends, our own classmates with this food drive. So we're very sensitive to that. We have our own local food pantry here, as you know, which does a tremendous job of helping our own students in need. But this is a larger picture. And as you go to that food pantry in Newton, it's right, Barbara, if you remember the old Shelby's in Newton, it's right over there. It's empty often, and they continue to tell us that it's empty on a weekly basis, even though they have a tremendous amount of support throughout the county, and people that you wouldn't expect are going there to get food. It's not who we may expect to go get food. So something that helps our friends and neighbors out, and I think that's a good thing. It is the most wonderful time of the year, and we're excited about all those events that are happening. Shift over to the athletic report, unless there's any questions on that. Okay, from Mr. Norton's office. This is kind of the wrap-up of the fall season, as we are in fall, winter, switching over to winter sports. 3 sports already going with bowling and ice hockey and swimming, because they start earlier than everything else in winter. Boys soccer is 4-11 record. Girls soccer 8-7-1 record for the fall season. Field hockey 6-13. It did advance to the second round of the playoffs with a nice victory in the open round and lost a close game to Vernon in the second round. Cross country, some of them are still going. The team is still practicing. They're out this afternoon practicing still. The boys 13-0, not a bad run. Girls 11-2. The boys were division champs again this year for their conference. Ethan Billings, one of our seniors, he finished 3rd at HWS championship. He captured the North Section 1 Group 2 title, and he's still running as he qualified for the NJSAA Media Champions, because he finished 8th, I believe, in that as well. So he continues to run and run and run. He shaves time off every time, so we're very proud of him, and he's continuing to run in the Media Champions. Girls tennis had a 12-5 record. Football had a 5-5 record. Advanced to the state playoffs and lost, unfortunately, to Parsippany, 12-6 in a very close game. The team played very, very well against a team that was much higher seed than us, and had a chance to win right down to the last minute, I think, right down to or so. Girls volleyball, fantastic season of growth underneath Coach Lemare, and they had the first varsity season this year, and they had so many close games. It was very exciting. If you hadn't get a chance to watch volleyball, it's a very exciting spectator sport. It's only about 45 minutes to an hour, so it's very short, but it's very exciting. So as the season grew, with the JV and then also the varsity, the fan base really grew as well. It's pretty cool to see our kids, because again, it's usually after school, in there and watching and cheering them on. And although they didn't win, they were very, very close to beating several teams, especially down the stretch. It's the best out of 3 in terms of the games, so it's great to see their growth here as well. Okay? Any questions on either of those things? Happy Thanksgiving, and have a great holiday.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Curriculum and instruction.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Good evening.
Pleased to see that I'm on the agenda twice this evening, which we all know means that there will be 2 reports today. Just kidding, just kidding. Mr. Randy, I know I'll be getting it tonight because there's not many meetings left to interact like this. So, Mr. Michael Langen came here with a vision 22 years ago, a Gulf War veteran. He instituted a military history class that he had in high school at Parsippany High School, and that class, taught by Mr. Ron Sarro, I think, was, pardon?
Ron Ferresso.
Ron Ferresso, thank you. That was an inspiration for Mr. Langen to, as a young man searching for meaning, to join the armed services. He's a combat veteran, and he has run, some years we've had 5 sections of military conflict. It's become a staple of our curriculum. And through his actions, he has instilled, or not instilled, he has enhanced our community's strong, long-standing respect and support for military service. So it's only fitting that he would host a Veterans Day event, and every year he has 5 to 10 young men and women come in and share their experiences with the students. I was able to sit in on those lessons. I meant to find a photo because the next day, I don't have a photo of it, but social studies teachers brought their classes to the auditorium and listened to our alumni veterans speak. And the next day, Mr. Langen came into class, and there was a brand new Marine hat waiting for him, and it was inscribed on the inside, Mr. Langen, thank you for your service and for a meaningful Veterans Day ceremony. Sincerely, a student who he had never met and who he didn't have in class, but he was kind of moved by the assembly and by his service, and it was really touching. He was pretty choked up. So it was a really nice day for our students, and we thank these young men and Mr. Langen for their service and for taking a day off from work and coming in and giving up a lot of time to be here. So thank you to them. I would like to review this evening our 3 district goals, and it's easier to do that when I can see what they are. So I'm hoping, there we go, I'm hoping that I'm able to do that. Tiered supports, data-driven instruction, and relationships. So those are the buzzwords. Here is the breakdown. Incorporate the use of data analytics software to enhance our efforts to assist students by measuring the effectiveness of our multi-tiered system of supports. It has now become part of the code and required that all schools have a tiered system of supports. How are we going to help students that are struggling a little bit, those that need more significant help, and those that really need intensive supports? Social, emotional, physical, academic, and that's the tiered system of supports. What we have incorporated this year is a spreadsheet and some software. We use Genesis and Google, software that we already have. And on the left, you'll see the risk factors that we track for all 880 students. Economics, disabilities, attendance, test scores, referrals by their teachers, marking period grades, etc. So it's a fairly comprehensive list of 9 risk factors. On the right, we track every student in the building who has been supported by our reading specialists, our speech therapists, our math and English RTI support staff, Room 120, our counseling center. Are they in an extracurricular activity? One of the easiest ways to provide support to a student struggling socially is to connect them with an activity or a sport. Peer support. So what this spreadsheet will essentially allow us to do is to look at every student in the building, how many risk factors, what support did we connect them with, and did that mitigate their struggle? Did the number of students who had multiple risk factors decrease? Did individual students with specific risk factors have those risk factors relieved or improved? And so we're hoping that this takes 8 or 10 people to regularly input the data, and then to meet once or twice a market period and evaluate where we're at and how we're doing it. Hopefully we'll see students that have a lot of risk factors, who are connected with supports, and improvement is tangible, and the data will show that. Data-driven instruction. This is the 2nd year that we've utilized Lincoln. I have to remind this community that last year we saw a double-digit increase in our state assessment performance. We went up in sophomore English nearly 50%, from 40% to 59%. So using that data analytics software appears to have been effective. Now, here's an example of what Linkit will show you. This is a sophomore test score report. It shows you all 30 language arts questions the students took. It shows you for each question what percentage of a teacher or students got them right or wrong. And it links the standard that's aligned to the question. Now here's an example of a standard that they're assessed on in English. Probably the most common standard assessed on the SAT and on PARC or the state assessment. Can you read challenging text, both information and literary, and can you find evidence to support the author's claim? So today I was doing an observation and I went in and I observed Ms. Strout and Ms. Hennings, and their 16 sophomores in English were doing exactly this. Each group had posters up on the wall. They were reading the Crucible, and they had 12 different prompts of things they had to find in the text. And then each group got a copy of the Crucible and got to cut out the evidence, and they had to align it on the poster. And then they worked in groups, and they evaluated where they were at, and they continued. So all period long, they were doing 3 or 4 activities where they had to read a very challenging text. Crucible is not easy, and they had to find specific pieces of the text to support a particular claim. And that's exactly what they're required to do. It's tremendous skill, but it's also very primal and significant for the PSAT, the SAT, etc. I then went back to my office and I pulled up Ms. Strout's class. And I said, gee, I wonder how those students did when they were assessed on that specific standard in September before they had her as a teacher. And they didn't do well. So they had a great lesson. She's a phenomenal teacher. And what I look forward to seeing is that specific teacher, when I look at those 16 students, did they improve in January? And then to be able to show her, you know that lesson I went in and I saw? You committed a lot of time to a really, really challenging task, and look at the results. The reason it's significant is there's probably nothing more important for them to learn academically than to be able to read, write, and speak. So we're really excited about that. Relationships. I did probably 17 observations in the past week. It will not surprise anyone that the classes where learning was best was where there was warmth and trust, and students participated without fear of making mistakes. I went into a pull-out replacement special education course where the students were reading Beowulf. It's really hard. And they had tremendous rapport and trust with their teacher, and they were all participating willingly. So relationships are paramount to classroom success. I have often said when a teacher struggles, I sometimes wonder if they just went canoeing or rock climbing or played rock, paper, scissors, or just did something for a month. I don't care if it's a chemistry class or algebra class. Build a relationship for a month and then go back in the classroom, and I bet you that they would far and away outperform what they did the previous year if they established fantastic relationships. I know we can't do that, but if you don't have a relationship with the teacher, it's very difficult for students to be successful. We eliminated hats and earbuds this year. The staff's very pleased with that. Feedback we received from the HPA is that our cell phone usage has gotten so much better this year. It's not perfect, but right now it's still early, but the number of disruptions in class is down dramatically, and I think the staff is very good about that, and we're working on that together. Climate team is up and running. Ms. Sarno and other members are having class competitions and talking about togetherness and engagement and that's been very successful. Dr. Ripley plans to send a survey out to the staff in next month, and then the same survey to the staff in May, seeking to measure their perspective of to what degree has our respect and our climate and our culture improved. So that's where we're at with our 3 district goals. Any questions or comments?
I would like to just share that. So today I was at a professional development opportunity, and it was all about social emotional learning and about the relationships. And they gave us a few statistics, but one of those, I have a couple of them, but one of them was 57% more students in schools with an SEL program improved their SEL skills compared to students in schools without it. 27% improved their academic performance. And the average return on investment for schools with SEL programs is 11 to 1. For every $1 spent, it's $11 in return for having these relationships. So
Well
I
said.
thought, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, there are parts of the school that are just work, and it's not always fun, and you have to do it if you don't like it.
Right.
That's life. But it's a lot more effective when you have to do it even if you don't like it, if you respect and like the teacher and feel that they're invested in you. So, second on
You talked about the reduction in hats and earbuds.
that. Yes.
Was that the staff or students?
That was a request to the staff applied to the students. Very few teachers wearing hats these days, except for on Halloween. So they're allowed to. Good professional development. In October, we have staff meeting, and Ashley Chiapano from Garden State Equity came in and did the training on understanding gender identity and expression. She also dealt with bullying, with suicide prevention, and other topics. Feedback from the staff is phenomenal, and it is perhaps good timing that this evening the board has for its consideration on the agenda policy 5756. And I'll point out that there's probably nothing in that policy that we're not already doing, such as training, which is mandated, which we do. But nonetheless, the timing is interesting, and we support and affirm. Our goal is that every student that comes in our door feels safe, feels comfortable, feels equal, feels valued, and can succeed. So it was great training, and the staff wants to be able to support every student as best they can because they care about the kids. So it was great training. 5 years ago, we volunteered and were selected to be one of the 20 pilot districts in the state where all of the teachers filmed themselves. And that then became one of the options that all schools can use. So every school in New Jersey has the option of the reflective practice protocol. And it says if you're a tenured teacher and the previous year your score was 3.5 or higher, you score between a 1.0 and a 4.0. But if you're highly effective and tenured, you may volunteer for this approach. What it basically says is this: a tenured teacher, let's say James Aslanian, he would normally have 2 observations. One announced and selected by him what period, but the other unannounced. They still have to have the unannounced when they don't know it's coming. But for the announced observation in lieu of it, if they film themselves, if they survey their students and look at that data, if they analyze their student assessment data, they can then conference with an administrator, and that conference, talking about their own reflection on watching themselves in film, that becomes the observation. It's more work. I gotta be honest, I don't know many schools that have 3 teachers doing it. I don't. Because right away you say, just come in and watch me, it's easy, I don't have to do anything. But here, they have to film themselves and give the student surveys, so to have that many teachers willing to engage in something that takes more time is really a testament to them, so we're really pleased with that. Tomorrow, we will have a meeting of curriculum staff from our sending districts, and you'll see a new one up there. A teacher from the charter school has asked if he could join our group. We do get a significant number of students from charter, and just collaborating with someone locally is a plus. So we're happy to have them joining us. Not sure if all of those districts will be present tomorrow, but I think that probably 4 or 5 will be there, including High Point. So we look forward to that. What we're really trying to set up for the spring, our next step that we want to do this year is for the 4 core subjects and maybe world language to have an afternoon PD where one or two lead teachers in each discipline from those schools come up and meet with our teachers, and we identify a common goal. What's the transition from 8th to 9th that we can really focus in on for language arts, for science, etc. Really the goal, if you back up to our district goals, the goal is relationships. So the first time I put them in the room, I'd like to just give them bagels and say, we'll see you in a couple hours, just get to know each other. So you have each other's emails and you can talk about things. But we're excited, we hope that that's productive and it builds relationships with those schools.
So can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
That's all areas of academics, you're talking about math areas?
We've had great success with math.
Okay.
Our next group is English.
This is the EL, this is English?
Well, no, we hope that between now and May, we will have a half-day PD session here for 1 or 2 teachers from each of those schools. So let's say Rena Mills teaches 9th grade English. Let's say her and Kate Namera are doing English for us. 1 or 2 teachers, English teachers from each of those schools come here, and for 2.5 hours, they have lunch, they talk shop, and they hopefully will be able to pick a goal of something they want to work on together.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going to keep asking this
Sure.
question. Did you say this is going on tomorrow?
Yes.
What is happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow, the administrators are meeting.
The administrators of these schools,
Yeah,
okay,
and-
not the teachers,
no.
the administrators.
Plan,
okay.
really, the plan tomorrow will be to discuss how many teachers,
Okay.
what the timing is, and a commitment to make sure that it does happen this year.
Okay, thanks,
So,
thanks.
yep. And I think this is my last slide, so enjoy it. This afternoon, in the salmon pink shirt in the middle is Associate Dean Corey Homer from SCCC. And he asked if he could come up and just meet with students who are interested in the trades. So Alex Gonzalez on the far left brought his construction and manufacturing students into the principal's conference room, and Mr. Talamay and I, and Mr. Gonzalez, spent with the students for an hour. And the heart of the focus group was this: why is there a stigma towards choosing a career in the trades? How do we promote and celebrate the benefits? And the students gave very honest, frank answers that will hopefully help the community college market their programs, realize what our students want in those programs. We are all in on 4-year college and beyond, but we're also all in on students that are passionate about becoming a skilled tradesperson. So this is part of something that we've been working on. Pass It Along will be, and SCCC together will be hosting a program either late January or early February, where all of our sophomores will have a 2-day workshop on thinking about your career, followed by an SCCC assembly period, followed by the opportunity for those students to sign up and go to the McGuire Chevrolet facility and see what they're doing at SCCC for the trades. So it's a good relationship. We think we're doing some good things with them. Also found out today that the community college will soon be offering wrestling and football. We're going to be the first school in New Jersey, first 2-year school to offer football. And I think a lot of our young men and women, part of their excitement to move on is to compete in athletics, and that'll be great. Good? Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, the next item is just review the board objectives that we selected for this school year. And just a reminder, there's two objectives. One is to review the Board of Education's bylaws to ensure the greater transparency and operations. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out a list of the bylaws, ask everybody when you have a chance, try to piece them together, take some time to look through them, make some recommendations and notes, so that by the end of the year, we can come to a consensus on any changes that are necessary to the bylaws. They can be found on the website, and those are the list of the bylaws. Jim knows where they are too, and certainly can help us. Anybody. The next objective is to become board certified with the New Jersey School Boards Association. It's a two-part test. One is taking 4 sessions of training as a board. We're having our 4th session in December at 5 o'clock before the board meeting in December. And that will give us a 4th for the year. The second part is that all individually must meet their required training. And Jim, by the end of the year, the individual training must be done on a calendar year, not a school year. By the end of the year, with all scheduled training, be properly trained?
Yes, everyone is either trained or
Or will be
scheduled
trained.
to be trained.
Okay, so it looks like by the end of the year, we will complete the second one. So if we can then focus on the bylaws and see if there's any that need to be changed to be able to. Other business. Any other business? Sorry.
So one of the things that I had come to a conclusion of was when we have our different committees, so we have the curriculum committee and we have a policy and personnel committee, and I felt like maybe the policy committees that when I'm in the curriculum, I'm on the curriculum committee, that maybe I should be aware of, or, and obviously I can read the policies, but when it comes to making any kind of changes or updates to the policies that are directly related to the committees, that maybe it would be better, instead of saying we have a policy committee, that each committee develops and works on their own policies. But I know that you know, it's not usual what happens, but it just, to me, I felt like sometimes I want to make sure that I'm being informed, and I am so far. This isn't to say that I'm unhappy or anything, but sometimes there can be a disconnect between, hey, this is, for example, I'm on the curriculum committee and homework falls under curriculum, and what does our homework policy say? That there should be some kind of discussion in the curriculum committee regarding the homework, not just the policy committee. So.
No, I agree, and we've discussed that on other areas where things should be referred from another committee prior to the committee in charge of resolving it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we certainly work on going forward for the next year.
And Leanne, in talking about this, every time the policies come through, we get them in our packets on Fridays for our meeting on Tuesday, which is plenty of time to read through everything. But our committees have already met at that point.
Right.
So we don't have an opportunity to go through it at the committee level. We can do one or two things. You just got given this, which is big. I did this already. But you just got given this. So rather than go through all of the policies that, I don't know how to handle this, but you have to kind of go through and see which ones are more curriculum-based policies, which ones are more buildings and grounds policies.
Well, and that's hard, because sometimes they fall under multiple categories.
But for instance, in what we can be more conscious of, and you and I were just on the finance committee, and 2 things came up on the finance committee. One had to do with buildings ground, and what did we do? We wanted to make sure buildings ground approved it before finance was paying for it. Another one had to do with technology, and wanted to make sure the technology committee reviewed it and approved it before we even consider approving it to the finance committee. And so that's what we had to recognize interaction.
Right.
And make sure things referred back and forth.
Exactly.
And the committee structure, for anybody out there that doesn't understand it, it allows the board to have really in-depth conversations. I mean, we probably put in like 15 hours of committee work before we show up here tonight. To do that at a board meeting is crazy. It's just crazy. So we take advantage of the committee structure by sitting and having these conversations, which are very beneficial. And then each committee has a report that gets shared with the rest of the board, everybody got their minutes from the committee. But it's even more than that, and to be able to have these conversations to go through the committee. When we have something really important, we'll talk about it at each committee, just so that everybody has that in-depth opportunity to hear about what's going on. And I think it's very important, and Bill is very adamant that the building and grounds stuff, before it goes to finance, that it gets discussed in buildings and grounds, and we do. So I think the important part of this process is that the people that are at all of those meetings, which is generally Jim and Scott, make sure that each committee hears what's important to them. So the buildings and grounds hears about a process, and then finance knows that buildings and grounds has heard about it and what their findings were on it, that type of thing.
Regarding policies, what I will do the next time we get a policy update, I will provide each individual committee with the relevant policy a month prior to when we have it on the agenda.
And that
So
way
we can discuss it
at
in committee
That's a good
a
idea.
month before it comes up for a full board vote.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a suggestion that a great mind once said in one of the committee meetings is maybe policies should be handled by maybe a committee leader. So whoever's buildings and grounds, that representative of that committee should maybe be on policies and so on and so forth. And this way here, those people could bring in what they feel of that. And it shouldn't be an issue because with the amount of different committees, there's multiple, there's a leader in that, in each committee, like that there may be a leader that's two committee leaders, you know what I mean? So, chairperson, whatever you want to call it, but that may be something that maybe can redesign the policies. Just
It's a valid way to get every committee to be aware of what's being discussed, so that's a good suggestion too.
Okay. Any other action items? Seeing no more action items, we're going to move on. I'm sorry, other business. Moving on to action items. And if we start with curriculum,
Okay, the first three items, we've received the faculty attendance report, the student attendance report, and the suspension report. I'd like to move items 4 through 7. 4 being, we're approving the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report, October 15th through November 19th. Number 5, that we will approve the curricular and co-curricular field trip. And 6 is that we will approve the professional development activities listed. And 7, I'm going to read because it's important, a little bit, it needs to be understood. Be it resolved that the board approves the following resolution authorizing High Point's LLD class to receive monthly guidance related to transition services from NJARC. A regular schedule of guest speakers will deliver this training to High Point students, and the training will be provided at no cost to the High Point Board of Education. So moving items 4 through 7. I need a second.
Second.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I have one question, number 5. One of the trips to the World Strides Festival.
I missed that. Is it what?
World Strides Festival, I think it was the choir, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to make sure I understood it correctly. It's $28,637 trip for 45 students.
That was
The
a big
students are
ticket.
picking up, students are, as I understand it, are paying, if I recall correctly, about $575 per student. Is that accurate?
Would that be the Whale watching trip?
No,
No,
that's
it's
they're
the-
going, it's the.
World Strides Heritage
Jazz.
Festival. Yep.
Right.
It says Jimmy Singers and Jazz, it's World Strides Heritage Festival, and it's about $550, $575 per student.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Caraza?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Donna?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Dr. Keo?
yes. I'm sorry, personnel?
Okay, under personnel, I would like to move
approve items 1 through 5 together. Item 1 is a recommendation to approve Samantha Gyrie as a part-time paraprofessional classroom aide retroactively from October 24, 2019 for the 2019-2020 school year as listed. Item 2 is a recommendation to approve the following substitutes for the 2019-2020 school year as listed. Item 3 is a recommendation to approve the following mentor for provisional teacher listed and authorizes payroll deduction payments for mentor fees during the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. And that is as listed. And item 4 is a recommendation to approve individuals listed as RTI after-school math tutors retroactively to October 22nd, 2019. And that is from a Title I funding awarded through Every Student Succeeds Act. And those two are as listed. And item 5 is a recommendation to approve the hourly bus driving rate for June Williams as listed. I make the motion for items 1 through 5, seeking a second.
Second?
Any discussion or questions on any of those items?
I question on item 1 and item 4, they're retroactive.
Yes. The reason being, item number 1, we was IEP driven. We had a child who was IEP driven, and it could not wait until the next time the board met to provide the needs of the IEP.
And you said that they came into the district, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Number 4?
And number 4 was based upon our need to provide responsive interventions for math for our students, which we have done for quite some time. It has been a very successful program. We had formerly established it through another manner that ceased to exist in October, and we needed to be responsive so as to provide another opportunity for those same children that could not wait for the next 14.
If I could comment on that. We had a staff member resign who was fulfilling some of that function, and to maintain continuity, 2 of our administrators agreed to, at my request and Mr. Talbot's request, to fill that gap. So
And was it offered to teaching staff members?
it was.
It was.
Okay, and they declined to take the position?
We did.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments, Mr. Kehoe, because those comments came up in the committee also.
Thank you.
No other comments or questions? Could I have roll call?
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
That was
Ms.
you.
You're that one day.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Crossan,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Ackcliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Morangi,
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to move item 6 separately. Item 6 is a recommendation by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves Ms. Elena Destories as teacher of social studies as listed. I make a motion seeking a second.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? I believe we have Ms. Destories present.
Yes, she has decided to be here this evening, something that not everyone chooses to do. She was given that opportunity, and she did not need to be here, but clearly chose to be here. And I think it is indicative of her excitement about being a part of the High Point family, and we echo that excitement to have her a part of what we're doing.
Well, let's vote her in.
So may I have roll call on that?
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Crossan,
Yes.
Ms. Nugent,
Yes.
Ms. Sedona,
Yes.
Mr. Ackcliffe,
Yes.
Mr. Morangi,
Sure, yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe.
Yes. Congratulations.
Well,
Okay, then I would like to move the remaining items 7 through 10, 10 being an item on an addendum under personnel. Item 7 is a recommendation to approve the extended sick FMLA leave of absence to employee 615 as listed. Item 8 is a recommendation to approve the appointment of Marge Darren as job coach for the 2019-2020 school year, as listed. Item 9 is a recommendation to approve the appointment of Lisa Marie Davis as long-term substitute teacher of art, as details as listed. And item 10 from the addendum is a recommendation to approve Lauren Dexter as RTI after-school math tutor, again, paid from Title I funding awarded through Every Student Succeeds Act, other details as listed. So I move items, was that 7 through 10?
Second?
Any comments, discussion?
As the item 10, in addition to what we just did, number 4?
Yes.
So we have 3 people filling that position?
Correct.
Excellent.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. Number C, extracurricular. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the following extracurricular appointments for the 2019-2020 school year. Assistant wrestling coach, Erin Bang. And that's the only appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it's a great deal. I think it's a
I
good
don't know how many follow it, but it's women. We've had a phenomenal turnout at the school for on the women wrestling team, and nationwide it's catching on, and I just think it's great for supporting.
It is the #1 growth actually in the sport is the women's.
Yeah.
More colleges are recognizing it, putting teams together, funding, and so it's great.
Okay, may I have a roll call?
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. Policy?
Policy, we have one item under policy. It's a recommendation by the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following new policy, Policy 5756, transgender students. Make the motion, need a second.
Second.
Any discussion on this policy item? Just to clarify, this is the first
This
reading.
is just the first reading, not a vote on the policy.
Because this is a brand new policy for.
And it's mandated, statute driven.
And the right thing to do.
Yeah, and absolutely the right thing to do. But as Mr. Campbell pointed out, we've been doing it. So,
Okay. This is the vote on, this is just a reading, it's not
Correct.
a vote on approving.
we still have to vote, right?
We still have to vote, yeah.
Right,
You're
for
the first reading
yeah.
of
The
the
first
policy.
reading, yes.
Any further comments, discussion? I don't think so.
Mr. Dona?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. On negotiations, there are no negotiation items at this time. Buildings and grounds?
Rarely have this.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's not. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I'm transportation. What the heck? Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay, I don't know how many items are here,
There's
so
4
hold on a
items.
second. We're gonna move all 4. I'd like to move the recommendation by superintendent that the Sussex 1 HPTO hold their basketball fundraiser here on December 13th. Recommended by the superintendent to the board permission of Frankfurt Township School hold their student facility basketball game on March 6th. Number 3, recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the Sussex Wattage PTO hold their bingo raffle on March 27th. And number 4, recommended that the board approve the Sussex Wattage Women's Club hold a Tricky Tray fundraiser on April 2nd. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Mr. Ramcliffe?
Yes.
Dr. Kehoe?
Yes. Finance?
Okay, finance. I am going to move all items together, 1 through 9, under finance. Item 1, recommendation to accept the report of the Board Secretary and Business Administrator for the month of October 2019. Item 2 is a recommendation to accept the report of the Treasurer for the month of October 2019. Item 3 is a recommendation to approve the report of transfers and minimum expense transfer report for the month of October 2019. Item 4 is a recommendation to approve for payment the attached schedule of audited bills dated November 19, 2019. Item 5 is a recommendation to accept the adult education agency account, athletic account, cafeteria account, principal petty cash, and school store account for the month of October 2019. Item 6 is a recommendation to approve the following tuition contracts between High Point Regional High School of Ascending and the following districts as listed. Item 7 is a recommendation to approve the roof preventative routine maintenance and housekeeping program with SR Products for preventative roof maintenance, so as to maintain watertight integrity within the building as listed. Item 8 is a recommendation the board approves the state contract proposal from RFP Solutions for an NEC IP Unified Telecommunications System as listed. And finally, item 9 is a recommendation the board grant permission to Synergy Dance Company to hold a dance recital on June 6, 2020 as listed. Make a motion to move items 1 through 9, seeking a second.
Second.
Any questions on any of those items? Yes, sir.
There was one thing I wanted to say when we moved the buildings and grounds things. When we have a profit group, we recommend that they grant permission, there's a cost involved to the group that's making money off of their program, that we charge them to cover our costs of maintenance and the costs that we incur by having the group in. But when it's a not-profit volunteer organization like the Women's Club and whoever else we just looked at before, we do not charge them. They are granted the use of our facility without charge, which I think is very generous of us and the right thing to do.
Yeah, anyone not charging admission fee who exists within our sending districts has use of their facility without
Okay.
cost.
Good.
And so when we have to have a Black Seal license
Right.
person,
we provide that.
we provide that.
Yes.
And insurance, they provide, or we provide.
Provided.
They have, right. For
The
those
only
as well.
costs incurred by someone is if they have a certain number of anticipated participants, they are required to provide security. If it's over, I believe, 100. 100? Yeah, I think it's 100. We changed it, 100 people.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to bring up is that on item number 8, our IT, head of IT, Dan Yardley, has worked very diligently to get us a new phone system in this building. Our phones have gone down, they're antiquated, we have problems in a variety of ways, and we've been fighting this fight for probably 5 or 6 years of having the equipment that just is not up to snuff. And every time the proposals came, we said, we don't have any money to do this. Dan has worked very hard to get us the best deal for really good equipment, and I'm very proud of him for doing so.
It also brings us into to compliance with Alyssa's law, which mandates a required panic button located on site, which will be in the main office. So it is security and phone system integrated.
It's a big deal.
And he's also, it started out much higher several years ago.
Yes.
too.
Significantly higher.
Yes, like 4 times as high.
Yeah,
So
so,
it's a
you know, it's been taken.
exactly.
It's a necessary.
It's
and it's cheaper
necessary.
than it was.
Yep.
And even though it's being approved here, it was approved by the technology committee?
Technology,
Yes.
yeah, it was improved in IT. Now I was gonna say it was improved in buildings and grounds, but that was the other one, so. Yikes.
And I would like to just make one comment on number 7, as we're going to discuss more length over the next couple of months. This building is now approximately 55 years old, and it's like any other structure, it's going to start in need of maintenance. The roof is a substantial piece of coverage, and this is $9,000 to be able to maintain it for possible leaks. I believe with this study that we're having commissioned to be done is going to show that the roof is a very old roof. We need to make sure that the kids aren't getting leaked on, and what are our long-term plans for the maintenance of the building, including the roof. So this is a short-term solution while we come up with a long-term solution for the aging of the building.
No other comments? Okay. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Crossan?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Mr. Encliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Dr. Keel?
Yes. Transportation?
Okay, item 1, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the completed bus evacuation drills for the 2019-20 school year. They're listed below. And then items 2 and 3. Item 2 is to approve a revised joint transportation agreement for a special education route in this school year. And number 3 is that we approve quoted contracts for trips in the 2019-20 school year. Need a second?
Second.
Anybody have any pressing questions about transportation? Roll call?
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Crossan?
Yes.
Ms. Nugent?
Yes.
Ms. Dodona?
Yes.
Mr. Encliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Morangi?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Keel?
Yes. Long-term planning. One of the things that has happened recently is we were notified that in last month's board meeting at Montague, the board approved a resolution to end the send-receive, or try to end the send-receive agreement with High Point, and to seek approval of the Commissioner of Education to enter into a send-receive agreement with Port Jervis. Their conservative estimates are is that it would reduce about 100 students attending High Point. That would then go to Port Jervis. Reduction in, they say conservative 10 teachers, I'm guessing more than 10 teachers and administrators, and a deficit to the school of about $500,000 a year. Well, 1.3 would be the total. I'm just saying their estimate was after the deduction of teacher salaries, the net deficit would be $500,000, but it would be 1.3 million in lost revenue. And then, that's right, and then after the reduction of all the teachers, it would still be a net loss to the school of about $500,000 a year. So it's a significant impact. They supposedly are having a proposal prepared at this time and going to be submitted to the Commissioner of Education. Nobody can predict the outcome of that, and we're looking at how that's going to affect us long term, should, in the unlikely event, the Commissioner of Education approve it. One of the other things too on long-term planning is we're having, as I mentioned with the roof, a long-term facility plan being finalized, and the engineers who are preparing it will come to the board meeting to present it to us so we can get an idea of what their recommendations are and what we need to start addressing now and in the near future, starting to plan that. That's it for long-term planning. Legal, there's no legal items at this point in time. Correspondence, I don't have any correspondence at this point. Miscellaneous, no miscellaneous items. Public comments, similar to before, anybody can get up to make a public comment, please give your name and address. It does not have to be an agenda items. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes per person. a little shorter if it's an administrator, and, and please be respectful. Any public comments? Seeing no public comments? Any non-committee board member reports or comments?
There is a Sussex County School Boards Association meeting December 5th, for anyone that's interested. 6 p.m. Lafayette House.
What are they talking about?
Consolidation, regionalization, and the issue of state aid reduction. So it's a pretty
That's a big
aggressive
one.
agenda.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a big one.
Like tomatoes?
I think they'll get through.
When?
Either everything's gonna be very late.
December 5th. Yeah, I saw that,
So
but
Thursday.
I can't go. I got
Thursday.
parent conferences then.
I'm going to do my best. I have missed the last one or two, so
Okay. Any other non-committee board member? Any other business? Seeing no other business, we can adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah.
Seeing no opposed, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.